We're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is the first town hall meeting on the first quarterly report submitted by the COAB team. We really appreciate that everybody's come and taken the time. This is the meeting where most of the time is going to be devoted to listening and getting the community concerns. This is a really important meeting. I know some of the other COAB meetings, there's been limited time for community concerns because there are also business meetings, but for this meeting, we have a little bit of business to do during part of the meeting, but the majority of the meeting will be getting feedback from the community. So I want to introduce myself. I'm Amy Watson. I'm here with my colleague, Dennis Rosenbaum. We're the COAB team, and just wanted to talk a little bit about what our role is. We are, the team is the community liaison, so we are working with the COAB, chairing the COAB, and getting feedback from the COAB on our work looking at the compliance of the city and the Portland Police Bureau with the Department of Justice settlement. And this first report, really the purpose of it is to put into writing and allow what we've been doing, what we're looking at, and what our findings are to date in terms of the city and the PPB's compliance with the settlement agreement, so that the public, the COAB, can look at that and provide us feedback in terms of what we say in the report and what questions we need to be asking as we move our work forward to look at the compliance with the settlement agreement and make improvements in the Portland Police Bureau. So hopefully this will provide a structure to get that feedback, and we'll be able to keep ongoing feedback loops going so that COAB members can get feedback from the public. We also have other avenues such as town hall meetings quarterly to get that feedback as well. We have forums on the COAB website where people can post comments in the public section as well. And we encourage people to do that so that we do get that voice of all sections of the community as we move this work forward. So I'm now going to hand this over to my colleague, Dennis Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Amy. Good evening. First of all, I just wanted to say that you have hopefully available to you this first quarterly draft report. It's very early in the process, and it's too early to draw any definitive conclusions or to make a final judgment about the compliance of the Portland Police Bureau with any one of the specific requirements that are in the settlement agreement. Our primary agenda, as Amy alluded to, we're laying out our methods and procedures that we are using and will be using to evaluate compliance and to gain community input into the process. So it was an early draft. It's only a draft, and that's why we want your feedback and your comments. As I look back, I know there was some concern about the commentary in there on the COAB. I certainly did not mean to offend anybody by that, and I apologize if anybody felt offended by that. We are trying to bring focus and direction at a time where we were all going in various ways, and the forces behind the early start are, there's a number of parties that contributed to that, and it's not the COAB members. Everybody here is doing their best and doing a great job, by the way. The COAB members have religiously shown up and participated in subcommittees and executive committees, and we greatly appreciate that. I want to introduce someone. We've spent a long time looking high and low, searching hard for the best and the most appropriate replacement as the chair of the COAB. And we were looking for someone who is widely respected in Portland and throughout the state of Oregon, someone who people respect and look up to, and someone who is a big advocate for social justice, someone who can make sure that everyone's voice is heard from all marginalized communities in Portland, someone who spent many years fighting for equity and justice. And we also want someone that is knowledgeable and speaks with authority and can help the COAB continue on this path of achieving at the highest level that it can achieve, which is very high, the ability to keep all of us up to date on how the community feels in Portland and advise us and give us direction on the recommendations we're making. And that person is Kathleen Sadat. So I want to introduce her, and please welcome her. She's a wonderful member of the community.
Thank you. Good evening. Good evening. All right, I heard you that second time. I wanted to say a little bit about myself and why I want to do this. Okay. I am passionate about justice. I'm also passionate about democracy. I'm passionate about being involved in shaping my own life and the life of my community. And that is one of the things I learned living through the era of Dr. King. I care about what happens with this effort. It has national eyes on it, not just on what we do together and what the product is. Sounds like this isn't working. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. It sounds like you can't hear me. Okay. All right, I'm going to take some stuff tonight, huh? This effort is being looked at on a national level, but not just at the paper or the document that will come out of here. People are also looking at how we treat one another in this process. And it's important that we remember that respect has to be one of the fundamental bricks in this foundation. That means all of us. If, in fact, you don't think this can work, I would ask you why you're here. And if you do think it can work, I'm asking you to put everything you can into making it work. I'm going to call out the big elephant in the room: lack of trust. I'm not asking you to trust anybody. I'm asking you to have faith in your own ability to make your voice heard and to involve yourself in the process, and through time, you will learn who you can and cannot trust. Trust is built on history. Maybe faith is a better word that I want you to have right now. Belief in something that you're not quite sure of sometimes. So I want to bring to this event this wonderful opportunity, this wonderful chance to make a difference in the lives of so many people in our world and across this nation. I want to bring a sense of harmony, a sense of collaboration, a sense of dignity, a sense of respect. And I have no doubt but that we can do that together. I'm going over here and look at my agenda. I see my role as, first of all, I'm a subcontractor to the COAB. I am a paid employee. I am not a volunteer. And I don't want to, well, whoops, there it is. I'm not gonna hide that. I think it's important that you know that. I see myself as an information conduit. When necessary, a translator. Sometimes the bureaucracy doesn't understand the language of people. Sometimes people don't understand the language of the bureaucracy. I'm a coordinator of efforts, of people, of information, and ideas. I am here to facilitate meetings, that is, to keep them going in the direction that we agreed on that they should go. I'm here to help develop structures that make things work. I'm here to help coordinate the work of the Portland team, to meet with stakeholders, to listen to problems and help solve problems with the public, with the COAB, with the city, with the police. And bottom line, I am here to work hard to ensure that every voice is heard. That every voice is heard. Now, every voice may not be heard all the time or at particular times and places, but we will find ways to get voices heard and included in this effort. Okay, I'm going to turn this over to Amy for a minute to talk. She's going to tell you where everything is because I don't know.
Good evening. Wait for this one to be on. Thank you. I'm Amy Ruiz, one of the staffers who help the COAB work on this process. So tonight we have food out in the hallway. Everybody is welcome to partake in that food. The food does need to stay in the hallway, but you can bring the bottled water into the auditorium. Restrooms, there is a hallway off of the lobby. If you go down the hallway, restrooms are on your left. If you brought a small child with you tonight, we have a box of toys in the back if they'd like to be occupied, though everybody is welcome to use those. Sign-up sheets, we've brought one in already, but there's a second one at the front table if you would still like to sign up to testify. Brad Taylor is in the back of the room. He is the city's mental health specialist and is here if anybody needs assistance with anything to make your experience here more effective or enjoyable. He also has a list of acronyms and definitions. So if you hear people using the word COAB or COCL or something else, he's got a list of what those are and what those mean. And then I have additional copies of the agenda up front, and they are also out on the table if you did not grab one on the way in. And then a final note for the COAB, the microphones on your table are rather sensitive, so please be careful in shuffling papers. And to everybody, I think we can hear, most of us can hear each other in the room, but unless you're speaking into a microphone, the audience who might be watching on television later will not be able to hear you. So please do use the microphones when it's your chance to speak. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy. And I want to give some recognition to Amy, who has been just the backbone of this effort since I came on, and just knows everything and knows where everything is and helps every way she can. So thank you, Amy. Go ahead. I have here some guidelines for maintaining common ground that was developed by the Data Systems Use of Force Committee. And I'll read them to you and hope you'll keep them in mind. Recognize and distinguish between passion and anger and clarify when there's doubt. State your own feelings, use I statements. Avoid blaming others. Avoid crosstalk. Listen when others are talking. Speak one at a time. Keep conversations group-oriented. Validate what you're hearing. That means ask the question rather than jump to a conclusion. Be aware of feeling defensive. And I don't know if that means and then stop or just be aware. Share the air. Step forward to share, step back to listen. Encourage participation from everyone. Exit when you need a break and in a way that is non-disruptive to the group dynamic. Use and honor the parking lot for thoughts and ideas that do not fit the current conversation. And we don't have a parking lot up on the wall right now. Well, maybe if you could keep a parking lot list of things that we're not going to. Okay, thank you, Amy. So those are the loose guidelines that we have for containing ourselves. The next item on the agenda is the COAB introductions, and they will do the first feedback on the document. Okay? So what I would like to have happen is, first of all, for the members of the COAB to introduce themselves. So your name and at least the committee that you're on, and then we will start with somebody starting to give feedback. Okay? Go ahead.
Tasha Hager. I'm on the Mental Health Subcommittee.
Bud Fulis. I'm on the Data Systems Use of Force Subcommittee and on the Executive Committee.
Hi, I'm Philip Wolf, and I'm a member of COAB, and I'm also a member of the DAUFCS committee, and as well as the Executive Committee.
My name is Catherine Gardner, and I'm a member of the MHCR subcommittee.
My name is Michelle Hughes, and I'm a member of the Use of Force Committee.
Good evening. My name is Avelle Gordley. I was appointed by Commissioner Fish to the COAB. I serve on the Mental Health Subcommittee and also serve on the Executive Committee.
Good evening. My name is Emmanuel Price. I serve on the Community Engagement Committee and the Executive Chair, the Chair for the Executive COAB Committee. I was appointed by Human Rights Commission, and I'm a Portland native.
Good evening. My name is Jimmy Johnson. I serve on the Community Outreach Committee. I'm chairing that committee at this time, and I am a Portland native. And I was appointed by Community Outreach personnel.
Good evening. My name is Captain Vince Elmore from the Portland Police Bureau, and I'm a member of the Community Engagement Outreach Committee.
Hi, my name is Jakari Jackson. I'm a police officer. I work on a North Precinct night shift.
Good evening. My name is Paul Meyer, and I am on the Data Systems and Use of Force Committee.
Hi, my name is Rochelle Silver. I'm on the Data Systems Use of Force Committee and on the Mental Health Committee.
Thank you, Rochelle. So you all know that we got in this room after years of protest and marching and data keeping and challenging the way that the community interacts with the police force. We got there through the work of a lot of different people, and I see one sitting here, Mr. Dan, who were persistent and diligent and thorough. We are here because of the work that AMA did. Lots of other groups have joined in to do. That's why we're in this room. And so we're changing from the strategies and tactics of that protest into another set of strategies and tactics. And in order to make this effective, that is one of the things we need to recognize. We're now in a place where we have a chance to influence policy on a grand scale. One of the stipulations of the settlement agreement is that there is a Community Oversight Advisory Board. And that board hears from the communities, the various communities, and reports back, uses that information, pulls it together, makes recommendations for inclusion or changes to policy, direction, including training. So this board is a voice or voices of people who live in Portland. This board will also look at implementation and advise and make recommendations regarding the things I said before, policies, practices, and training, those things that impact an officer's behaviors in the treatment of Portland residents. Another significant responsibility of this group is to communicate with the communities and let people know about the progress that we are making. Okay? So, all that said, the primary focus of tonight's meeting is commentary on the first draft of the quarterly report as put together by COCO. That is what we're going to talk about tonight. If there are things that you want to talk about that don't fit into that category, I'm going to ask you to ask Amy to put it in the parking lot. Okay? The initial timing, is 4 minutes. I will be really on top of that. And we're going to start with the COAB members. Does anybody want to start? Do you want a microphone?
So I'm giving feedback on the report, right?
Yes.
Okay. So yesterday, the Data System Use of Force Subcommittee met And I had an opportunity there to give a more complete set of remarks regarding the report, and all of them were captured brilliantly by Amy. I don't know how she takes notes so well, but she did. And so they're written, and the COCL and the community can read them because they will be posted, or they are posted? They will be posted likely tomorrow. Okay, they'll be posted tomorrow. So briefly, without getting into page numbers and specifics, I thought the report was too long. And the reason that I think that is that there are many people sitting here in the audience who have been working toward police reform for a long time, and have taken the time to read the entire report. But I don't think just any old citizen sitting in their house is going to read a 97-page report and take notes and digest it thoroughly, especially when there are a lot of acronyms in it, and it would be difficult to understand, I think. So if there could be a user-friendlier kind of paper, I think that would be a good idea. Secondly, I thought that the report was comprehensive, and it clearly described why there was a settlement agreement, and what the settlement agreement is about, how the COCL got chosen, how the COAB came to be, and I think that was done very well. There are a couple of things that disappointed me in the report, and most of the disappointments had to do with how the writer of the report views the citizens of Portland. I was, I don't know, embarrassed. I was disappointed. I felt a lot of not very happy feelings reading that report. I disagree with a couple of specific things that were said that I thought were blaming the COAB for not getting things together enough when I don't think it was our fault. I also was disappointed with the representation of the auditor's report, and how that was explained, and how benefit of doubt was given to officers not being able to articulate the use of force policy. And I realize that I don't have very much time left, 30 seconds, so I will stop there, and thank you very much.
Thank you. I would first like to say that I would like to be identified with the comments that were made by my colleague, Rochelle Silver. Thank you. Just some observations. I think it would be very helpful to have provided a list of stakeholders, the stakeholders that were interviewed for this report. That would help us see where there may be gaps in where and how we are consulting with the broader community. I'm concerned that through the way the settlement agreement is written, and given that we have a scope of work focused on training, I'm questioning how we will also look at the issue of hiring, how we hire, who we hire, the interview process, making sure that that piece gets connected to issues around training. I have a question about the auditor's role with this particular report. Are we expecting commentary from the city auditor on this report? I would like to see where the word minority is used throughout the report. I would like to see that word changed where appropriate with the phrase racial and ethnic populations, especially when it's clear that that's what we're talking about, racial and ethnic populations. I'll leave my comments there.
Test. Hi, I'm V. I wanted to commend the COCO for dealing with an already late settlement agreement. I understand that you guys have, just like the COAB, has dealt with jumbled calendars. And I don't in any way want to be a part and party to assessing any sort of blame. I think that we can work together in a more cohesive manner so that we open up the communications between the people that have information and the people that want information. I'm just trying to be real pedantic about it. I appreciate all of the work that's been done, and I know that you guys are from Chicago, but frankly, I don't care because you guys have done an outstanding job. At the beginning, I wasn't sure because obviously I didn't know you guys, right? And I was mistrusting. I come from a population, the mentally ill, who are actually the aggrieved parties in the settlement agreement, and who have to go through 11 doors and 23 hours of solitary, who actually seriously suffer. One has already died, and one has just gotten out of critical care. So I appreciate your professionalism. I made a mistake about the PSU team, and I want to publicly acknowledge that, and I stand 100% beside your decision to use them. I understand that they're used across the nation, and I will work hard to make amends to that effect, because I take responsibility for that. It's important to me to impress upon other COAB members that our work here is very clear and succinctly, pretty much, laid out in the settlement agreement. And I look forward to working with the COCO team going forward. I understand when you don't have all the information, and I speak professionally now, that communication styles can tend to be seen as us versus them. I'd like us to work together to get beyond that. Thank you for your time.
Any more feedback from COAB? Comments on the document?
Can you speak up, please?
So I was reading through the document, and it's, near 100 pages, so it's really in depth, and I think it's very well written. I do think that, but for the general community accessibility to read this, I think that's a little bit of an issue. But everything is there, and I'm understanding that, this is the first quarterly report to come out, and I do understand that. So, and I trust that the next report, for the next quarterly report, will be more information and have more details, and after more of the feedback comes out. And I know that we couldn't do this in the first for the draft, so we're getting more feedback now from the audience, and I'm hoping to see more audience come and offer more feedback to add more details and more discussion for this. But I know and understand that this is the first one, and I am impressed with it. I do have a concern with this report for the city, like the city feeling, and I'm hoping to change it to community feeling. And there's professional statistics and analysis, and I understand all of that. So I guess I'm looking forward to more in-depth discussion related to the mental health issues, because I feel like this is a pretty superficial and basic report for the mental health issues. So I'm hoping there will be more meetings with mental health professionals and figure out how we can add more of those details into this report. But it takes time. It's a process, and I trust that this will, get better from here on out. And I am impressed with the work, and I'm hoping you'll encourage more people to come out and get more feedback. And that was all to my comment.
My name is Jimmy Johnson. I agree with most of what was said about the document, particularly the part where the document is quite long. It's extensive, but it's the first. It's one of the first ones, and I think it'll get better. We'll get better with it, or Coco. But one of the things I was impressed with in the document, that struck me in the document, was some of the last parts where they suggested some possible ways that City of Portland and Portland Police Bureau can do things to probably make things better for the community, as well as the Police Bureau itself. And that's kind of like talking about the community policing piece and some other pieces in there that we can all build trust around one another and work together with one another. So that part I was pretty impressed with, and again, the length was a little long, I thought, but I thought it's pretty detailed and kind of explained some things. And this process is is pretty. It's not an easy process, because as we're up here talking and trying to facilitate and chair work with them breakout groups, we get a little off our own selves and we are citizens of Portland as well. And the way I look at it is, everybody in here, I know we're all citizens of Portland, so it's definitely not a us versus them or they versus us. It's all of us in this together, like we're on the same ship. Well, if it goes down an iceberg, we're all going down too. So, but with that being said, I just like to say the document was, like I said again, a little long, but a lot of things in there I can see are very doable and very workable, but it's going to take a cultural shift. It's definitely going to take a cultural shift between everyone involved. So, and I think that's, again, a process. So, thank you.
I'd like to use my time to comment briefly, but then also to just share a little bit with you about conversations with COCL about what they were trying to say in this report versus what you might be seeing. So in my own commentary, I'm glad to see that COCL is calling out certain failings. However, they're lost in the overall size and scope of this document. While Tom Kristoff, who had a lot to do with writing this, would tell you the message he had wanted to send was PPB has done a lot of work since 2012 to great effect. Nonetheless, the majority of the work still remains. It would be fair to say 80–90% of the work still remains. And that message doesn't come through necessarily very clearly in this document. Sometimes you might read this and think, wow, this is cheerleading. And so as you review it, think about that. Does it send the message that we want to send, that there's a lot of work left to do? Or is that buried in the details? As I read through this, I agree that I did not see some of the things that I'd like to see covered in here quite as much as I'd like to see them covered. I didn't agree with the statements regarding the auditor's report, which basically minimized that too much. The auditor's report did say something important about use of force, and we do need to pay attention to that and learn from it. But I was very impressed that some of the things COCL is saying are things I'd expect to hear from you. Things like, gee whiz, we have this great employee information system, but we're not really using it to good effect. Supervisors are not using it the way that they could, so we're not getting the results. The accountability system, completely broken. We also have a problem with policy that COCL has called out, which is, since 2012, we've taken a Band-Aid approach to fixing policing in Portland. We haven't been measuring results. We haven't been including those measurements back into a continuous improvement process. So it's been patchwork. It's been haphazard. And the results that the people need and expect have been less than reliable. And I was glad that they called that out, and they're asking for greater transparency so that people can see what those policies are being proposed to be, comment on that, feed back into that, engage in that, and that PPB get better about engaging outside consultants and others in how they do this work and engaging the people themselves. So I was very impressed by those things, but again, I'd ask you to review this with a critical eye and ask yourself if it's really sending the message that we want it to send. And regarding Rochelle's points, which I agree thoroughly, I'm going to work with Tom Kristoff to put together a presentation that really boils this down to basic points. And then I'll try to set up time at the Multnomah County Library and other libraries where you and I can sit down and chat and talk. And if I can answer questions for you, then I'll do that. Thank you.
Anybody? More comments? More feedback? Yes, we have time.
Okay. Thank you. Just looking back through my notes, a couple of other pieces. I looked for a reference to the need for culturally competent responses and the use of culturally specific providers when responding to folks who may be experiencing a mental health crisis. Again, my overarching concern is that we be sure to include and highlight the need to train for cultural competence and to make sure that we are that we're aware of and are using culturally specific mental health providers. These are issues that our mental health subcommittee is definitely taking a look at.
Okay, so we have not reached the time allocated, so if there's more that you want to say from the COAB, other observations, recommendations, helpful suggestions in terms of this document, now's the time. Yes, up until I think it's June 13th. Yeah, that's a Saturday, and Amy will tell you where to submit it. But yes, and you can do comments online. Yes, and I'm
on the forum, emailed in to Rosenbaum and Watson LLP at gmail.com. There's also a paper form at the front table that you can fill out with feedback on the report or on tonight's forum. And you can hand that in or mail that in. There's an address on there as well. And then there's a public forum on the website, which is cocal-coab.org. There's a public forum at the bottom of the forums page. You do need to create an account, but then you can submit your comments there for everybody to see.
Yes, just really quickly, I'd like to... Is the mic on? There we go. So I just wanted to really quickly emphasize a point about the report. It's a challenge for the report, and I understand their challenge for this report, that it's, I wanted to explain for the community what's going on with part of this report. So really, it's encouraging an exact measurement for the use of excessive force and what it means for excessive force, and the issue of how to measure and collect data showing, improving that there is an issue and how to measure that issue. So that's one of the challenges here. And again, we really need the community feedback and us to work together to figure out and come up with a way to measure and develop a better measurement to do an analysis of this data. So that's one of the things I want to emphasize, and the issue is the issue of measurement. But again, thank you, and it's a good job.
Thank you.
There was something in the report near the end, I think, that I wanted to comment on. It was something that I really liked and would like the COCO to expand upon it if possible, and that's the issue of the community has said that one of the things they most care about is feeling respected by the police, and they are more concerned about being respected and how they're treated than they are whether they get a fine or a ticket or go to jail. I didn't say that part. And so I think that really needs to be looked at. It might not be specifically part of the settlement agreement, but it's something that's important to the community and needs to be enhanced. Thank you.
Rochelle, I agree with you, because respect is very important, and it goes two ways. You have to be involved with the community and understand that, and I see a lot of my mentors sitting in the room, like Joyce and so on. And the respect aspect is what youth tell us all the time, that when they are in contact with police officers or have interaction, they want to be respected also. And that's one of the points that they bring to us when we work with the groups and so forth and meet with them, like some of the groups out of this area, Boys and Men. They impress on us that that respect part is very important to them. And it is, whether you get a ticket or not, it doesn't matter. If you go away, in fact, there have been times where I've had officers that have given tickets to individuals, Rochelle, and they have said thank you, and they go about their business, and they have no issues. But the respect part of this makes the interaction very difficult, and it leads to other actions and so forth that are not very productive. So thank you for bringing up that point.
I just wanted to say one tiny more thing, and that is that respect is more than putting the word sir or ma'am in your sentence.
Yes.
Thank you for bringing forward the word respect, because when we look at the report and the reference to Aaron Campbell, the describing phrase is young man. He was a young black man, and that is a part of the story and a part of the picture involving what happened to that young black man. The phrase following that statement goes on to say minority. I don't have it right in front of me, but it says something about minority. But again, it takes us back to the need to be explicit. in the way in which we describe who and what it is we're talking about and what our concerns are, what our priorities are.
Okay. More comments? You want me to call on you? Okay. If you, I think this is, if I don't have any more comments, then none, huh? Then it might be helpful. If you,
I'll keep this very brief. Thank you. This was very helpful. And also, some of you have written comments down, and we appreciate that, and they will all be incorporated in a revised draft. There were just a number of things. I can't go through all of them now, but things I hadn't attended to enough. Val, you mentioned hiring, and I think that's important, how people are selected and recruited for a police force today, where there's a concern with that nationwide. And the training part of that. And the issue of using the term minority, I hear you loud and clear. We can correct that without any problem. And V, I just wanted to, there you are. The Portland State thing is kind of history at this point. And I want to thank the COAB for moving forward on that. They've done a lot of work to find and search for people to do that, and they're going to report on that tonight. So it's been in their hands, and they've done a great job, so I appreciate that. Let me turn the page really quick here. Let's see if I can. I want to leave plenty of time for people. And we would agree, Bud, with your conclusion that there's an enormous amount of work yet to be done in the Portland Police Bureau, and this is just the beginning. And they're working hard, but there's a lot of steps, a lot of hurdles, and it's going to take time. And and we probably should have been more ambiguous and less committed on some things. I feel we're just beginning to touch the surface on training and what we know about training in the Portland Police Bureau, for example. I mean, there's many other areas as well. And Amy, I know you probably want to agree with Val on the cultural competency issue with the handling of the mentally illness incidents. But that's it. But thank you. But all of your comments are great. I just want to say that we will incorporate them, and we look forward to hearing from the community tonight as well.
thank you, Dennis. So now it's time. Do you want to take a break? No, I heard keep going, and then I heard yes. So whoever wants yes, go ahead and take your break, but we're going to keep going. Let's go with the public input here. And we're going to start with people who signed up and said they'd read the draft report. And the first person is Kaylee Lubin. And so there's a microphone right over on that side of the room. And if you would kind of face both the audience and the COAB, yes, perfect.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I fundamentally don't enjoy public speaking at all. But there is a legal concept that says silence is deemed assent or consent. And I'm not going to go into detail about my dissent. I would like everybody to know that I participated in helping to bring the DOJ into the city of Portland. And I have continued to work for 5 years with every member of the community that I've been able to work with. I love the people of the United States. I love the people of Portland, and that's my motive. My second motive is there's no place in the city of Portland where you can find a Department of Conscience. The conscience of America is in us. The other observation I would like to make is there's nothing more dehumanizing than being turned into a statistic. And yet you're going to be full of statistics. Bear in mind, people in Portland are hurting, and I feel their pain. I will just deal with one sentence. There has also been considerable pressure on COAB members from outside groups to pursue an activist approach to police reform versus a collaborative partnership model. What form did this considerable pressure take? Who was actually bothered by this considerable pressure? What harm did this considerable pressure cause? How many COAB members complained to the COCL about this considerable pressure? Since the only outside groups are from Chicago, is it possible that the COCL, from a different political culture, has misunderstood what Portlanders are saying to one another as neighbors? Were COAB members actually intimidated or molested by this considerable pressure? Was the COCL inconvenienced or disturbed? If so, how? The city wanted activists and selected activists. So how does activist become such an insulting term of reference? Would the COCL prefer passive citizens? Really? How would that help? Who would that help? And what exactly is a collaborative partnership model that is found so lacking among us neighbors, working together for years, some for decades? And finally, did the COAB receive harmful information from the community when members reached out into the community for help in the absence of support from the DOJ, from the City of Portland, and from the COCL?
Next, I have Ted Lubin.
I'll pass.
You want to pass? Okay. And Brayfield, as read by Brad Taylor. Is Brad in the room? Oh, there he is.
So this is an email that was sent and she was unable to attend and asked if I would share her words. Thank you for the opportunity to address you this evening. I am Ann Brayfield, a concerned citizen and mother who has been working in a collaborative manner with members of the CRC, the CRC's Use of Deadly Force Work Group, the CPRC, the AMA, and the DOJ over the past 5 years to acknowledge and understand our problems in policing our community, toward beginning to police our community and care for the vulnerable and marginalized among us so that every member of our community goes home safe at night. As all of you in this room know from our own experiences, this is arduous work. The DOJ findings and the settlement agreement are another opportunity to dig in and do the work to come up with sustainable solutions to the problems before us and allow our humanity to shine. We know our inhumanity all too well, and yes, part of this journey is to find our individual and collective humanity. In reading and reflecting on the COCL's first quarterly report, I noticed that trust came up several times. The subject of trust also came up in February 2014 during 2 days of public testimony invited by Judge Michael Simon in his courtroom as he considered the matter of accepting the settlement agreement between the city and the DOJ. From that testimony, it is clear that people who had experienced a variety of police and citizen interactions directly or indirectly also experienced a violation of trust that involved the PPB, the city police oversight system, and other associated groups intersecting in our justice system. A common thread in testimony was the request that if Judge Simon accepted the settlement agreement, that he remain involved in oversight over the life of the agreement. In the city's appeal with the Ninth Circuit Court concerning whether annual reports should be made to the court, and if so, what form the annual report should take, is a continuing sticking point in reestablishing the trust of the community. The community felt heard by Judge Simon and looks to him to exercise oversight on their behalf. Thank you, COCL and COAB teams, for your work on behalf of all of us. I will be following up with written comments and would be pleased to assist with this work as the opportunity present themselves. Thank you.
Trudy Cooper.
Hi, I'm Trudy Cooper. I live in Northeast Portland. I've been supporting police accountability work for the last few years. I read the report. I read pretty much every sentence, almost every word. I also, quite some time ago, read the settlement agreement. This is big, it's overwhelming, and I appreciate all of the various parts and people and bodies that are working on this. I think we all get the why of it. It's the what and the how. And for me, reading the report, especially the who of it, that gets harder. So I'd like to say what stood out for me in the report that I thought was positive, and I'd also like to say what stood out that I feel could use some improvement as things move to the final draft. I really appreciated the emphasis that you put on the great need for the truth and reconciliation process. I really appreciated the walking beat suggestions towards the end, the bike patrols, the, what was it called? The beat meetings that would be small face-to-face, unlike these kinds of hearings that can be intimidating and kind of one way, because I think that that is really what rebuilds things, and so I really appreciate that emphasis. And another thing that I noticed was the mention of the great need to connect policy with training, and especially to explain to officers the why of a particular directive, because I think in a culture that is, you know, guided by directives and what used to be called general orders, the why can often be left out, and rebuilding relationships really means that we understand the why. Excuse me. But, and on the other side of things, what I would love to see you improve in the final draft is the section that contains your reflections on the, I think the way you worded it was, successes and failures in the operation of the COAB. I'm speaking to the COCL now, the writer, whether the writer's here or not. The conclusions seem to be based on different assumptions than I would have made. I'm only speaking for myself, but I would hope that you would want to go toward the final draft with an interest in questioning some of those assumptions. I think that there were two main things left out of those reflections, and I think they're important not just for the final draft, but as we go into the future. The first, and you described this, there was a vacuum in the beginning. And I am, in the work that I do, I know that any vacuum, people flow into that vacuum. Helpful people flow into that vacuum. And they try to fix it and they try to fill it. And they were doing that good work. But instead, what I was seeing written was, well, you know, that's stage 2 of group development. That happened early because the needs of stage 1 weren't met. And I think that you acknowledged that. But what I saw was holding the city responsible for that, and to some degree the COAB responsible for that. And I think that that role really is the consultant's role. And I haven't seen the COCL's contract, but that's a strategic, visionary, putting in context the entire national context. That's not the work of a temporary administrative assistant. It's not on the order of booking a room. It's not housekeeping. That was the direction that needed to be set in the beginning. And so for the future, for building trust, I think it's really important that going forward, that everyone is taking responsibility for whatever the missteps are and whatever are the mid-course corrections that need to happen. Thank you.
As you come up to testify, please look at me every once in a while, because I'm going to tell you how much time you have remaining. And I have some little signs over here to let you know when you only have 1 minute, and then when you have 30 seconds. Okay, so that means you have to look at me every once in a while. Joe Walsh.
My name is Joe Walsh. I represent Individuals for Justice. There are a lot of people on this committee that I really like. I like many of you. I have great respect for some of you that I know. But I think you're going to fail. And these are my reasons. You have police department sitting on your committee. They are the defendants in this case. Would you go to a bank robber and put him on the committee to settle his sentence? No. Then why do you have police departments on this committee? Doesn't make sense to me. To say that we are going to have the police department do the training is bizarre. We need an independent group of people to come in to train the COAB. We don't need to sit here for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and get bored to death. Look around. The last meeting I attended, there were hundreds of people here. They were enthusiastic. The only thing you accomplished tonight is everybody got more food because there's less people here because they are bored to death. You must face the fact that there are people dying on your streets. You see this button? This is Keaton Otis. He was shot 22 times by the very people that are on this board. Understand this, ladies and gentlemen. Cops are gangs. They are the baddest gangs in the neighborhood. They answer to no one, and they don't answer to this committee, and you're going to waste $30 million between you and the people from Chicago, Frank Nitty's neighborhood or Scarface's neighborhood, come to tell you how to run your police department. Are you insane? Thank you for your mic.
Thank you, Joe. Dan Handelman.
That is a tough act to follow there. I'm Dan Handelman. I'm with the group Portland Cop Watch. Member of the COAB should already have received the comments that we sent last week. If you didn't, I have hard copies here, and anybody in the audience that wants one, you can come see me. I'm sitting over there. I'm going to interrupt my own commentary to say that our organization is not going to be told about how we are going to organize or what kind of strategies we're going to use. We're going to keep pushing this board to do the best it can do, but we're going to push on the outside of this room as well, because the settlement agreement is not going to fix all the problems that we have in the city with police. It's written to not fix all the problems we have with the police. And we tried to ask Judge Simon to fix that, and he wouldn't do it. So there's more work to be done, and we're going to continue to push. And I hope that you appreciate that you have a limited role as a COAB, but we're hoping that you do more than what's written on the page in order to help fix the problems. In terms of the report, we noted that it's very good that the COCL is reserving judgment on compliance right now, even though the Bureau has put out several spreadsheets showing that they're almost done with everything. We have a long way to go, and I really appreciated Bud's summary acknowledging that. There's already been a comment made about the question about collaboration, and I read the settlement agreement. I've read their settlement agreement many times. There's nothing in there that says the COAB has to collaborate with the police or to go on ride-alongs or anything like that. I think there's a spirit of, perhaps cooperation is a better term, or finding a ground to fix problems together, but that doesn't mean that you need to collaborate. When people in this community are continuing to be hurt, a person with mental illness was shot and wounded by the police just last week. May Day was attacked just a few weeks ago by the police, and with pepper spray and flashbangs and people being injured there. This is not something in the past. This is our present, and it's still going on. You can't ask people to collaborate where they're abusers, in short. In terms of other specifics in the report, and again, we all wrote this in much more detail, but the crisis intervention team is pointed out by the COCL as something where they should not have every officer being trained 40 hours anymore. That was something we fought really hard for in this community to get put in place. And the agreement, paragraph 97, says the police have to continue getting that 40 hours of training. So please don't take that away from us. This has already been mentioned in a way, but the concept of civilian oversight here, this is not some quaint, quirky Portlandia thing. This is, again, something we fought for really hard in this community. That in 1982, there was a knockdown, drag-out fight, and I don't know how many people in the audience know this, to get a very, very weak oversight system in place. And that system has been replaced with the IPR and CRC. It's been built on to the point where we're starting to get towards something that looks like a police review board, but we're nowhere near there yet. And to talk about maybe cutting out the Citizen Review Committee's review of appeals of misconduct cases, the way a corporation would cut things to make its bottom line balance, is completely ignorant of the history of why we have a Citizen Review Committee. I also am a little confused why the COCL is talking about looking at the PPB over the next 2 years. I know the settlement agreement says it ends in October 2017, but the judge made it clear that it's going to take 5 to 10 years to turn everything around and make the institutional changes that we need to make. And just hearing what we've already heard tonight, I think that that's pretty obvious. It's going to take a while to get where we need to be. I'm also a little confused. Just today we entered our comments on the directives that were up this month, and there was something on page 77 saying no members of the public have commented on the policies yet, and I know that's not true. Not only have we sent things to Justice DeMuniz and to Brad, but we also sent them to the Bureau, and they acknowledged today that they've received our comments. So I know, and I know other groups have sent in comments on those. And I know you're running ahead of schedule, so I'm hoping I can finish what I'm trying to say here. There's also a question in the report that's a very good question about whether multiple uses of force on multiple subjects at the same time constitute more than one use of force. And that's a very crucial question for incidents like what happened at May Day, where multiple people got pepper sprayed and multiple flashbangs were used. In terms of what you're doing tonight, my understanding is the committee still needs to vote on several things, including adopting the recommendations about the directives that one of the subcommittees worked on, that you need to vote on the recommendation about who's going to be doing the survey. And I hope that we're not going to lose process where this is supposed to be an open and transparent process where things are being decided in these subcommittees that not everybody can get to. I just have one more comment. And the last comment is that the report talks about the broken windows style of policing. And right now, in preparation for the Rose Festival, our police, in cooperation with private security and workforces of people who are incarcerated, who should be in solidarity with homeless people, are out there taking people's property, confiscating their animals, and pushing them around Portland when they have nowhere else to go. And that, again, is part of the ongoing reality that we have that needs to be changed. Thank you.
Teresa Rayford.
Okay, so that was a lot, and I'm going to stick to the script that Ms. Sadat has put us on as far as referencing things that are in this report. On page 69, it starts off on the part that I'm referencing, and I'm not going to read all of it because I don't want my time to run out, but the COAB, in collaboration and coordination with the PPB, has held one public hearing in partial compliance with paragraph 146B. In reference to that, what I would like to say is basically, in joint of all these other testimonies that were given, is that the COAB, in my mind, is supposed to be a reflection of our community, and the oversight and accountability of that board is supposed to also determine the outreach to our community members in reference to these type of meetings and dialogues and town halls. I think we can look at this room and see a reflection of a lack of outreach on behalf of all of these people that are on this board that should quantify a level of outreach to us. I'm concerned that if you're not reaching out to us and you're not bringing us to the table, that you're not a clear reflection of the community that needs to be served through the findings in this Department of Justice settlement. And then also in reference to the way that this meeting started in the introduction of our new COCO, in referencing containing ourselves in respect and words like that, I'd like to say that we're in a room full of people that are standing up for the human rights of people who have lost family members and who are victim survivors of police brutality and custody deaths and excessive force. So to ask us to contain ourselves and to reference this board and the members that are also a part of that group that has created a brutal environment for our society is kind of an insult to our humanity and was part of the rage that came out in the first meeting that we had that's referenced in here that was unplanned and planned fast and ineffective. We're not here for PR. We're not here for public relations on behalf of the City of Portland or the police department. Community members are here because we want to support this process. I was happy to hear the reflections from the COAB members that did speak on our behalf, and I would hope that you guys would go ahead and put some amendment in there or review what you have and make it a desire that all COAB members speak to the community in regards to reports like this, because we would like to know their thoughts on these findings. And I don't know if you could process an essay or something that would be given to us that we can take in writing, but I think a reflection of your voices on the record and reflection of our needs and wants and the desires and the input or the experience along with us, your direct engagement would be reflected in your thoughts in this process as well. So thank you.
Ron Peterson. It's hard for me to read. P-E-T-Z-R. Yeah, it looks like Peterson. No Ron Peterson? Paul Fishman?
Good evening. I'm Paul Fishman. I live in southeast Portland, near Hawthorne and Cesar Chavez Boulevard. First, I want to thank the members of the board and the public and people who have been working on subcommittees and the COCO team for accepting this incredibly daunting challenge. And it's a tremendous amount of hard work. So I think everybody appreciates that, and hopefully you hear that from people. I've read the document. It's a good draft. I don't have a lot of comments at this point, but I think the comments I'm hearing and that I know people are submitting, the draft will get a lot better and the final report will certainly be much improved in those areas that people are concerned about. I've been coming to as many of these meetings as I can, and you know, I recognize there's a tremendous amount of anger and distrust in the community, and hopefully working together as a community we can find a way through that over time and make the improvements that are greatly needed in the police bureau and in the community as a whole, and achieve the goals of the settlement agreement and beyond. I want to just have one comment about a specific item in the report. I believe it's on page 80. There's a reference to a policing model, respectful, engaged policing. And I want to point out to the COAB and the COCL that if you have not gotten information about a pilot program that was started by Central Precinct last summer, where they put they built a unit of 10 officers, including a sergeant, and they parked their cars every day and walked 3 neighborhoods: downtown, Central East Side, and Hawthorne. And what the officers described to us in the community was that they were doing relationship policing, whatever name you want to call it. I think that model exists in that pilot program. The goal of the officers was to get to know people on a first-name basis. They did a very good job and are continuing to do a good job. Merchants, residents, people on the street, and everyone in the neighborhood where this patrol is operating quickly came to realize that when they saw a police officer, when they were approached by an officer, it didn't mean that they were doing something wrong. It meant that they wanted to check in, see how we're doing, get to know us, tell us who they are. It's what I call community policing. And Mayor Hales made a verbal commitment to us that this would continue and that he would look for ways to expand it into more neighborhoods in the Portland community. So I hope you've heard something about that model. One comment an officer made to me was that he said a lot of other officers who heard what he was doing said, "Are you crazy? Why would you get out of your car? People hate us." That's very telling. So we've got things to fix in this community. Okay, that's it. I'm done. Thank you very much.
I have Tom Steenson.
I live in Southeast Portland. I'm an alternate to the COAB. I've been as active as I've been able to be with the Data Systems Use of Force Subcommittee and other aspects of the COAB. Because I can't speak as a COAB member, I'm speaking publicly. A couple comments, areas of comments. There was a recommendation in the report about looking hard at stopping hotspot policing. And what that really says to me is there's some recognition by the COCL, and this is a positive thing, that hotspot policing is a more negative approach to crime control than it is positive. And one of the spin-offs of hotspot policing, which this police bureau continues to support, is a discriminatory pattern of racial profiling. And it affects African Americans in this community, and it is part of the COAB's job under the settlement agreement to look at the racial profiling plan, look at discriminatory policing, look at stops, look at how resources are expended. And I urge the COCL, which ignored those kinds of responsibilities that the COAB has, to include those in the redraft of the report so that it's recognized that the COAB should be attacking those issues, and specifically there should be an end to hotspot policing and other gang units that are harassing primarily young black men in this community. On a negative point, The city, for years, has dismissed, from my point of view, the community voice when it comes to policing. There have been stakeholder groups. Portland Cop Watch weighs in. The League of Women Voters weighs in. The ACLU weighs in. They get sued and they apologize, but they are dismissive of what the community has to say about how this police department should be run. Unfortunately, when I look at the COAB report, I see signs of the same dismissive attitude towards the community from the COAB. Two things jump out at me. Number one, or first, they were very dismissive of the auditor's report, which spent a considerable amount of time interviewing people, making observations, and coming up with conclusions about the failures of the training division to provide the training and use of force that this community deserves and its police officers should have. Secondly, and even more troubling, the COCO, and this is not the first time it's taken this position, and I know there's been some reference to it already, and probably more eloquently than I can do, has taken the position that there are outsiders, and that may be me, because I'm not in the COAB. It may be the Portland Cop Watch. It may be the League of Women Voters. It may be the Hardesty Consult people. I don't know who it is. It is insulting. It is offensive. It's against the whole notion of listening to the community. And more than just saying to you that it's wrong, I think you need to identify who these groups are, who these people are. Because if you're not trusting in them and you're rejecting them, and somehow they're influencing the COAB inappropriately, we should know about that. Because it undermines your credibility, your ability to operate in your position if this community is left with the notion that you're distrustful of unnamed people or individuals because they're activists or they have some opinion that may be different than yours. And I think you need to come clean and tell us who you're talking about. If there's some dangerous population out there that's influencing the COAB, let us know. But I don't think that's what's going on. It's offensive and it needs to stop.
Chad Ludwig.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chad. I'm deaf, and I use American Sign Language to communicate, and I'm using that to communicate and talk with you today. My role here is that, well, really, before I get to my role, is I live in Southeast Portland. I am representing today as the president of Oregon Association of the Deaf, which means I represent the body of 186,000 individuals with hearing loss in this state. And most of those live here in Portland. So I really want to focus on that population with mental health issues, which we need to include really as part of this process. For example, there's a deaf woman. She has post-traumatic stress disorder, depression, and is also in a domestic violence relationship. The police were called to the house, and they asked the husband, who is the perpetrator, to interpret the conversation between the police and the victim. That's the first part of that story. There's another situation of a black deaf woman who is unable to read or write in English and who has a developmental disability with additional health issues. Her access to services and communication to be able to understand what's happening was denied because she didn't have the ability to understand. So her understanding was completely excused. And so those are the kind of things that we experience every day in this state, not only in the state, but nationally. Often, when we're being arrested as deaf individuals, we are arrested with our hands behind our back. So we're unable to sign. which means we can't communicate with the interpreters. So I just want you to understand what's been happening and what we are facing. The police lack training and they lack policies. And the police in Portland, there was one situation where the police were sued over 2 years ago. As a result of that suit against the police hastily wrote a directive. Directive 640.36, and that's communication with people with disabilities. That directive was half-assed, was really written half-assed, and the police did not include the community. They did not ask us for our input. They did not work with the deaf and hard of hearing communities at all. And half of the report, we see ourselves, in that report, we see ourselves as victims again, in a situation where we deal with the police. Research shows that mental health in the deaf community is proportionally higher than in the average community or hearing communities. So I was wondering if you could help us address that need. If you recognize that need, and you recognize that we can have an earlier conversation, like before you mentioned the word minority, and you preferred to focus on racial and ethnic populations, or if you look at the linguistic, or if you would consider including linguistic cultural, or individuals that represent, or individuals with different backgrounds. Often I feel that the deaf community is not thought about, and that American Sign Language isn't thought about, and that is a primary mode of communication for many people. Should I stop? Okay. In our community, there are more deaf individuals that are coming from different backgrounds, a variety of backgrounds. Not only white, but many deaf individuals are from different backgrounds and of different races and experienced 4 or 5 or 6 different members of 4 or 5 different oppressed groups. And there's continual oppression against them. And there's continual band-aiding of this problem, and it hasn't really been addressed, the true problem. So that's where it needs to stop. And really, we need to address it fully. Thank you.
Antonio Greeley.
Hi, I'm Antonio Greeley. I am a student here at PCC, and I'm the president of Don't Shoot, Educate. And I just want to say, like you guys say, I believe you're the chief, you said you were, that respect is a two-way street. If respect is a two-way street, then I feel that you can't tell me that it's a two-way street when it does not come two ways. As being a black male that's, I live in the North, and when police drive me, they automatically stop me. You don't teach us our rights. You don't tell the youth, oh, this is what you can do. This is how you approach something. So until you can teach me how to approach a police officer, then don't tell me it's a two-way street, because it's not. It's a one-way street. You come at me one way and you want to say your authority. Yes, there is authority, but there's a way to also treat those who are not in authority. You guys also said that I feel that you guys need to go back and look at the police and figure out what we can do better, because what you guys are doing is not helping. The way that you're training them is not working. So there's a problem that you guys don't want to address, but I'm going to address it for you. Aaron Campbell, Kendra James, James Chassie, Keaton Otis, Christopher Haley, and right now that is currently happening, Michael Harris. maybe you guys didn't know, but you still don't see that there's a problem. No one wants to sit here and address it, and you guys want to sit here and sit on this board and say that you guys are going to come to the community and fix the problem, but you're not fixing it. The problem is the police. There's something that you're training them that they're not getting. This is happening across the nation. Are you guys going to do something about it? Like your sergeant, your lieutenant, your chief, nothing's happening. I'm not seeing any change. I've had a lady come up to me today and say she just fears for her life when she sees the police. Half of the kids nowadays that you guys consider as gang members and, just problem children, they have problems at home, but when you see a police officer, they don't know how to address them. You guys sit here and say, okay, give me your driver's license, and you want everybody in the car, tell them the truth. Go to SCI, the Boys and Girls Club, the YMCA, go to colleges and tell them their rights, teach them their rights. But since you guys won't do it, I'm going to make sure that I'm going to do it because my people need to know what they need to know. And what you guys are doing is not working. And I will not stand or stomach anymore to turn on the TV every day and see people that look like me be shot down. And every time you guys want to say you fear for your life, we fear for our life too. That's why we run. We fear for our life too. And it's not right that you guys can get away with murder because you fear for your life. I'm not saying that you guys don't fear for your life. I understand that you're putting your life on the line to protect and serve. But learn what protect and serve means. Protect and serve your people. Don't protect yourself and serve yourself. You are protecting and serving the community. There is a difference. And best believe I'm going to make sure you know it one way or the other.
L. Vanderland.
Hi. I just wanted to follow along with what this young man says. There is something in our law that says it is okay to kill with impunity. There's something written in our law nationwide that says it's okay to kill a child. Aiyana Jones, to kill a child. Tamir Rice. There's something written in our law that says it's okay to kill a child. A human being, a man, a woman, a father, a mother. There's something written in our law that says it's okay to kill with impunity because you're afraid. I'm afraid, so I shot him. Oh, that's okay. No one got punished over it. I was afraid, so I shot him. He wore a hoodie, so I shot him. Someone went unpunished. Something went unquestionable. It's unquestionable. He's dead. She's dead. They're dead. It's unquestionable. Unarmed citizens are dead. Unquestionable. Unarmed citizens are not getting justice. It's unquestionable. It's happening. I'm watching it. I am watching it. I know what I see. Oh, because the law says it's okay. No, I see that it is not okay. Killing is not okay. The killing of unarmed citizens is not okay. The killing of people is not okay. The killing of a child, Tamir Rice, of a child, Aiyana Jones. Somebody said that it was okay for them to be killed. Someone said it. You know why? Because it's written in our laws. In our laws. And if we don't look at that, if we don't accept the fact that the law says it's okay and we must change it, having conversations about, oh, let's learn how to shake the hands of a police officer. I already know how to be polite. I don't need to be told to be polite. I need to be told the laws have changed and you cannot kill a child. You cannot kill a mother. You cannot kill a father. You cannot kill an unarmed citizen without being punished for it.
Sue Bartlett. Mary Ng.
Hi, guys. I'm so honored to be here. My name is Mary Ng. Thank you all for coming out. I wish it was a packed house, but it's hard getting around. I wanted to talk specifically about the issues surrounding crisis intervention and my own personal experiences. How long do I have to talk? Okay, awesome. So I also wanted to hit on the body cameras and mention that the Hardesty's latest article is pointing out that the police control of body cameras, or when the evidence is entered in, or for what purposes the body camera evidence might be used, poses problems that the officers can't regulate it. It has to be with an outside body. But in terms of crisis intervention, for background, my mom is a nurse. She's frequently been a psychiatric nurse. And when I was 21, I was toppled with police because my mom thought I was weird or had a funny haircut and talked funny, or I'm too much like my dad. I don't know what the problem was, but I was totally taken off my guard. I was plowed into the ground by huge officers. I was very young and innocent at that time, and it's always informed my work in police brutality studies because I have a very real and vivid feeling of, am I going to die? Are they going to break my bones? I feel very fortunate that tasers weren't the rage back then in the 90s, and that I've been able to repair from a lot of the police violence-induced brutality trauma that I have, which I also witnessed a lot of brutality in Nashville, Tennessee, even as a little 6-year-old child, watching officers beat black men on the middle of the road, and I felt very afraid of them. But I fell in love with a young man who has a brain injury, and I'm coming to understand that there's a high likelihood of long-term complications with his brain injury. And so for about 2 years now, I've been living in complete terror and fear that one of his many cyclical episodes will turn into a fatal interaction with police. And then when we throw into the mix family issues, I'm afraid that my family might misinterpret it, or things are going to a 911 level when I don't feel comfortable with that. Or sometimes I feel like, hey, I really need some backup. And one thing I've been thinking, I try to think legalistically, is that if I did a subpoena on Multnomah Crisis to show how many times I have tried to go a soft route towards helping my friend get care, or how many times I've taken him to a clinic or tried to, like, whether it's like massage or sauna or some alternative therapy, my understanding is that Multnomah County does not have a chronic traumatic encephalopathy program. There's not a traumatic brain injury program. There are no resources. The healthcare is very scarce. I can't find neurologists who care. I actually had Michael Savage in the Northeast turn us down and say, oh, we don't want to treat you because of the police brutality aspects of the brain injury. So my friend came into Portland with a very severe life-threatening accident with a life flight and blinding of his left eye. He ended up being crushed under the ground within a month of being in Portland with a knee on his head. Fortunately, through his refusal to plea out, we were able to finally get it into Immergut's court, where the actual officer who had assaulted him, whose name is Carl Klunt, admitted to grinding his knee into this head of this man who was in a coma, resuscitated, barely survived this childhood accident. So Immergut just gasped and tried to contain her disgust. She was formerly in the position of Amanda Marshall, and I felt like through all of this, we've struggled to have representation, get any kind of civil justice. We're struggling for health care, struggling for housing, struggling for family understanding. And I want to say specifically to the Black community, I've done it all for you, because I feel like these struggles are so pertinent, and Every time I was, like, Ben has beautiful red hair, and I'm always like, would you even be alive if you had black skin? Because nobody understands your disabilities, your cognitive dysfunction, and your hyperactivity. And I just want you to know we have good hearts, and I hope it works out. I hope he survives. I hope everyone's aware of people like him. I think he shares a lot in similar with the deaf community because his communication can be quite confusing sometimes. And I just want him to survive and there to be more resources for people like him.
Lakita Lanford.
My name is Laquita Lanford, and I am one of the 5 alternates that got chosen on this COAB, on the COAB board. And right now I'm really nervous, but I do believe, and I know that I owe a great thanks to Teresa Rayfield, who's in the room tonight, because had it not been for me being in the space and her giving me the opportunity to use my voice for what was going on at the time with the police, with police brutality around the nation, she stepped up and she wanted to give folks in the community of color, black people, a place to use their voice. And I was one of the persons that got kettled in on last November 29, 2014. And from then I had followed what it was that her leadership as a community plan for our community. And I sit in this room today as an alternate in the back of the room when in the beginning we were sitting at the table, right? I know that there was the process, I learned about process through this situation, and I know I don't really have that much time, but I got to know the officers and the sergeants and the lawyers that sit in this room today. Not the people the officers that I interact with in the community that still profile against me with my black skin when I'm riding my bike downtown Portland and I get pulled off of my bike for just not knowing. Yes, I know my rights, and I totally agree with us, the way that the police are trained and us as citizens, what we don't know. You know, so I've been in spaces and have had meetings with so many people, and I took it upon myself as a community member to be out here in the community serving the people that don't have a voice. So that's why I'm here today and will continue to fight for the rights of black people and African Americans all over this city of Portland, because our voices need to be heard. There's so many people that have been hurt, yes, we need healing. But at the same time, for me, it's just using it in a very productive way. These last 6 months have been very hard to sit in a space with police officers that, yes, you got to know me, but you don't get a chance to know anyone else. So the officers that sit in this room, I know you, but the ones that are out on the streets, I don't know you. And you don't know the people that sit next to me and the people that ride the bus, the folks that have mental health issues. You don't give them a chance to even state their name before you're ready to arrest them. And I'm not saying these folks that sit at this table, but the people that sit, the officers that sit underneath you. So it's a wide spread message that is not getting conveyed in the Bureau. So that's why we will continue to fight, if that's what it is that we have to fight, because we're not a gang, we're not terrorists, we're people of this community that pay taxes, that want to see everyone safe in this community, our youth in this community safe, our elders in this community safe, our mental health people in this community safe. And I do appreciate and thank the COCO and the COAB for being here as supportive individuals so that we can get this done for the city of Portland, because I strongly believe that this is something that we can do together. We can't do it alone, and we need the assistance from all community members, of all stakeholders, bureaus, nonprofit agencies to be held accountable. When I sat next to the mayor, I asked him for accountability. And so that's what I'm looking for, is accountability across the board and not just in one specific place that it needs to be. And I know that, just like my young man said, that the officers do put their left self on the line, but that's the job you signed up to do, to serve and protect. And when you tell me that you don't live in Portland and you don't care about Portland, then I have a problem with that. So what I want to say to you guys is thank you, and I appreciate you guys, and as a community member, I'm rocking with you to the fullest.
We still have a little time left. If there's anybody who would like to take 4 minutes to comment or to make some observations.
Hello, my name's LaVon, and I am the LaVon Heister. I'm the chair of the Portland Commission on Disability, and I would like to bring up accessibility of the report, because for myself, as someone who happens to have learning disabilities, I just took one look at it and I got overwhelmed. And then I just shut down and I didn't even try to get into it. We have a lot of people in our community who do not read well. Maybe they do read well, but we tend to get overextended on volunteer things, because in our community, that's the way to look for jobs. And considering the fact that we don't have work, we're always looking for jobs. So people are volunteering in many, many places. I'm just wondering if in the future there is a way to make, because I know when you sign on to the COAB, you actually signed on to do a lot of work in reviewing this kind of stuff, but make it a 3 to 5 page report that is friendly for the public, because I want to bring this in front of the commission, but I can't even figure out, and I want Philip as our representative to bring this in front of the commission. I can't even figure out where to start. It's so overwhelming to me. And so that's my piece of information that I think will bring more people into the mix, and people whose voices are very rarely heard. I think, we don't have enough people from the communities of people with lived experience of mental illness in this room oftentimes, because it's really overwhelming to just go into somewhere and ask that your voice be heard. And then when you get reports like this, it's just like, huh? So I'd like to also offer that if you would need any help in how to make things more accessible, I do have people behind me who have a lot of experience on that.
Can you hear me? Yeah, okay. And I'm a member of the AMA Coalition for Justice and Police Reform, and she addressed one of the things I wanted to talk about was the accessibility, or the lack of, with this report. I'm an educator. I guess you could call me an academic. So I could get into this report with one exception. That little chart in the back is so small, you almost need a magnifying glass. So you need to think about, how do you make sure that people can not just read this, but to read it in a format that makes sense? You almost have to take this report and dissect it. I mean, I was making little charts. People need to know what is currently not happening. And then they need to be very clear about where we want to be. And then in the middle, what's currently in place, and then what needs to happen and who needs to do it. It needs to be very clear. There also needs to be opportunities for people in small groups to have discussions and give feedback. This type of format can be intimidating for people. So I agree with you, Bud. You know, we need to do something to make sure that people can get the information that they need to have so they could understand. My other issue is, like Tom brought up about the so-called outsiders. I want to know who those outsiders are, and I hope I'm not one of them. Well, you know what? I don't care. If I am, yeah, that's fine. But the point is, there's a lot of pain in this community, and people see this as an opportunity to have their voices heard. So things can change. And I want to applaud all of you who are sitting up here, because this is important work, and it takes courage. And we appreciate everything that you have put into it so far. Thanks to Kathleen for stepping up to provide some guidance that I think everybody will appreciate as we move forward. And I think everybody here, we're here because we care. And we know things need to change, because we've seen enough blood on the streets of our young people, our elders, our males and females, and this stuff has got to stop. And so we can make it happen, but you know, we're going to have to stick together on this. And just one last thing to the COCO. You talk about the COAB needs to have legitimacy and authority. So does the COCO. And so you need to continue to communicate with the community and with the COAB, so that, because your legitimacy is still up in the air, only because you're an outsider. You're the outsider. Okay, thank you.
I'm with Disability Rights Oregon, so we're the protection and advocacy agency for people with disabilities. I agree with what's been said here. There needs to be transparency. There needs to be communication with the community. When I looked, I've frankly only glanced at the COCO report, but when it talks about the need for the Portland Police Bureau to evaluate how the crisis intervention team and that whole program is working. There's a saying in the mental health community, nothing about us without us. We need to talk to the people in the community to understand whether or not this training is making a difference. I'm part of the Behavioral Health Unit Advisory Committee. I think that we could do a better job at involving the community in our particular group. And I think that's very key, because trust was a big issue brought up in the settlement agreement. And we're not going to have trust if we have private groups meeting and the police looking at data. We need to have people feeling like they can give input and that their situation might make a difference if it didn't go well, and that they're part of the program of improvement. It can't go one way. It can't be on the COAB. You know, it can't be on the COCL. It needs to really be a community-oriented event. And I think we need to concentrate and focus, since we have some more time, on how do we get the community involved, how do we get their voices heard, and how do we understand if anything different is happening, and they're the ones who can tell us.
So we've structured this so that the COAB needs or has the opportunity to respond or to give thoughts or ideas, be creative about the things that you've heard this evening, both the comments on the document and the comments of people's concern.
Hello. First of all, I want to thank you all for your comments. And I wanted to start where we began with the public comment, and that's with your comment. And I think you made some very profound statements. One, that there is not a Department of Consciousness. And I thought that that was a profound statement, because what we're really dealing with here in the subtext is we have a department and an agency. There is a huge subculture that has to change. And that subculture changing requires work, but it also requires consistent oversight. And I think that this board has an opportunity to do that. What I also wanted to offer to the community, just so that you know and are well aware, is that the subcommittees have been meeting and they've been working very, very hard and spending many hours doing a lot of work. We pored over the mental health directives, gave feedback, and we actually gave feedback to the COCL that we felt like it was important to designate time for the subcommittees to offer reports to all of you so that you know the work that we're doing. Because I get the impression from some of the comments that the presupposition, or maybe this is an assumption on my part, but that you all don't know the work that we're doing. That you're not aware of the efforts and the time and the energy that we've spent thinking about and being conscious of all of the comments that you've made. We're very much a part of the community. I'm from this community, born and raised in Northeast Portland. I know the issues, but I shouldn't have to run down a resume. What I do require and at least expect is that there's a bidirectional exchange and that there's some level of trust that you extend to this COAB who does give their time and energy and effort. So let me offer this to you, and maybe there's ways that we can communicate better when these meetings are available. Our mental health subcommittee meetings meet every first Thursday, and we're meeting at the OMSI South Waterfront. It's on the website, but we'll also send it out in an email. When we had our first meeting, we had 2 community members come. And it was sent out to put on the website, and we're saying this is an opportunity. We talk about the small group settings that would be available for the public to come out to offer feedback in a non-threatening, non-judgmental setting. I want to extend that invitation. We're there, we're working, so you can physically see, then you can also actively participate. But the other piece that I think structurally is that as we move forward, again, the recommendation has been made, and I anticipate that it'll be adhered to, is that the subcommittees will be given the opportunity at each of these public meetings to at least, and in the meetings hereafter that we have, the COAB meetings, to share with you and get some of your feedback on the work that we are actually doing. Because we're not just sitting here, it's not that your concerns are falling on deaf ears. Much of the points that you've made here tonight have been made in the small subcommittee meetings, and you should know that. So I just wanted to make sure that we're aware of that. The last point I want to make, and I know the time is up, but I didn't speak, and I'm taking as much time as I need today. That's okay. You made another active point, this idea of activism versus collaboration. I don't necessarily see those two things as mutually exclusive. I think that you can be perfectly active, have an activist mind, and collaborate. And I'm going to go with what Lakita said, that in order for us to get the work done, it's going to require dissenting opinions, it's going to require ugliness, unattractiveness, attractiveness, maybe some yelling, maybe some uncontained attitude and emotion. But the ultimate goal should be the same, that we're moving to a place that improves the outcomes for the people that we all want to see better served, the community. And when we talk about marginalized groups and communities, this settlement agreement specifically focused on persons with perceived or actual mental illness and excessive use of force. What I want to submit to you today and argue is that if we do the work and specifically be laser beaming our focus and get this one thing right, that we then can swing wide open the gates for the doors for other marginalized communities. People with mental illness are white, they're black, they're poor, they're deaf, they're LGBTQ. So I'm saying we've got to start somewhere and be focused. But again, these conversations are being had. There are thoughtful people up here who are mindful of what needs to happen. And I want you to leave here, if you leave with any one thing here today, is we get it. We really do. Okay? And then the last piece, this piece about community outreach. We welcome the opportunity. Now, we've heard from you today. You'd like to see more people in the room. So would we. We've reached out. Some people have Facebook pages. If you have specific, concrete ideas that you'd like to offer to us, are there groups or emails or people that we should be coming to talk to, better ways to improve the attendance for these public meetings, we welcome that. And again, a good setting, if you don't feel like talking in a larger meeting, please come to these subcommittee meetings. So that's it for now. But again, I thank you for your time. Oh, the last thing I'm going to say. Sorry. So, actually, I'm not really sorry. So, this issue of change, because really that's the centerpiece here, right? Change. I've never seen anything in history, anything. And I'll double dog dare you. I'm willing to bet you I've never seen anything in history change amidst comfort and convenience. So there has to be some level of discomfort that's requisite in order for the change that we are seeking to take place. So I want to offer that to you, that we're all consciously aware of this, and we want you to know that, okay? So, and we appreciate the pain, we understand it, there's room for it. We appreciate the anger, there's room for it. We appreciate the frustration, there's room for it. And what we ask is that we collectively put that together and find a way together to move this agenda forward. We're not going to fail. I don't do anything to fail. Nobody on here joined this committee to fail. And so as long as I'm a part of it and everybody else here who I know commits hours during the month to do this work, we don't have any intention to fail. That's not an option. So we welcome you to join us in our effort, and we thank you for your time and for coming here tonight.
Am I on? Yeah. All right, I gotta stretch the voice out a little. All right, well, hello again. And I want to thank you all for being involved and sharing your concerns and sharing your stories and comments with us. And each of you are important in this. And I want to clarify, we're not competing about who is suffering the worst. We all have experience that we've gone through, similar experiences. We're on an equal level here. And myself included in that. I've experienced domestic violence and police failure to report and provide interpreters during that process. So, I mean, that's the reason I'm here, is because I had sued the city of Portland. And it's not just about the money, of course. I want to make a change. And now with COAB being established, I see that opportunity to push forward and make more changes based on these experiences. And I do understand some of your perspectives with this, and this is the binder that I have for the COAB. It requires a lot of time, and this isn't my idea of pillow talk. I mean, this is a lot of work, and it takes 20 hours a week that I go through this, go to meetings, and try to process all the information. And think about it overnight, and with the city and the COCL and the COAB and the DOJ settlement and everything going in circles, it's very complicated. And last January, there were the bylaws and the COAB understanding the rules and different trainings and just going through this step by step. It's a slow-going process. There's the annual report, and this is the first quarterly report. Again, I was impressed with that, but it's a lot of work. But we do feel you, and we understand you. And what I'm asking from you is patience with us and to help support us. We want to hear your voices. And again, thank you for coming and sharing your comments and your stories and your voices with us. I guess that's it.
Anybody else? First and foremost, thank you all so much. Some of you have said such powerful things. Lakita, you moved me to tears. I walk away having learned one very important thing from all of you, more than anything else. Despite all the work that has been done, despite all the best intentions in the world, the people of Portland aren't feeling it. And that's important. And I'm not sure that the measurements, the statistics, the processes and procedures that we're putting in place adequately recognize the need to make sure that the people of Portland are feeling it. So that's a very important thing I walk away with, and thank you so much for helping me understand that. I also took something from what you said that actually makes me very sad personally. I feel like I've screwed up, I've made a mistake. I think here in COAB, we've allowed ourselves a little bit to move into an ivory tower. Our outreach is lacking. We're asking you to come here to our ivory tower and talk to us and have 4 minutes. We need to come to you. We need to come to your neighborhood organizations. We need to come to your libraries. We need to come to your barbecues. And I commit personally to every one of you that I am going to do every single thing I can do to make sure that that happens. So thank you again very much for being here.
Related to the Portland Police Bureau, I want to recognize the PPB here tonight. There are 5 officers here, and they were here before the COAB set up. And I know we were all afraid of the police because we've experienced negativity with the police, and because this was before the suit and the settlement. And in LA and New York, that was terrible. And I feel lucky to be here in Portland as opposed to those other cities. But really my point I want to make is the PPB, I'm learning how to love them. Or how to hug them, excuse me. Excuse the interpreter, how to hug them. Because before, walking around with their guns and their weapons, I would, kind of wave, say hi. And I'm trying to learn how to hug them. And I know they're trying too. And I understand that they have to put on a face to be a police officer, but they're human underneath. So, and I want to remember that. And I'm struggling and I'm learning, and I'm experiencing the same things as you guys are, but I just don't want to write that off. But I just want to mention that the PPB is here. So, and thank you for that.
Good evening, everybody. Let's all get a group hug going. I can't get a hug, bro? Oh, I can't get a hug. I'll get one later. See this unity here? So that's what we need more of. Honestly, I wasn't going to say anything just because I wanted to really listen and not talk, but I think everybody has a valid point here. The young gentleman over there who spoke very well about earning respect and getting respect, you put that better than I could have put it. And I'll just share a quick story, and then I'll kind of try to tie my point together. I'm from Portland, born and raised, went to Emmanuel Temple Church. Every year, every New Year's, we pray in our new year. That's just something that we do. I've been doing it for 37 years. Bishop Wells Sr. is my godfather. We were coming, I was 16, 17. It was me, my sister, and my cousin, driving from Albina Church, which is right now PCC. We were leaving their service, going to our service for midnight mass, or praying in the New Year is what we do. We weren't even 100 feet away. We got to Albina and Sumner, and right when we turned right, we were being tailed. It wasn't even a block, but we were being tailed by the police officers. We turned right on Sumner, and maybe 150 feet from us was Emmanuel Temple Pentecostal Church. So the officer came up, lights everywhere. He came up to the car, asked my sister for license, registration, told us to roll down the windows. She handed it to him. He told us all to put our hands up in the car. So we all had our hands up. I don't know, it's still kind of fresh, actually. So excuse me. He told us to put our hands up. So we all put our hands up, and I had my hands up. My sister had her hands up. My little cousin had his hands up in the back seat. And, we just had our hands up. So I was like, okay, we're done. So I put my hands down. This officer, I don't even remember his name. He pulls his gun out, sticks it in front of my sister's face, pointed it at me. Other officer comes and snatches me out of the car, puts me in handcuffs, puts me in the back of the police car. By this time, a lot of members of our church congregation start coming up. Long story short, we fit the description of some vehicle that was identified for something or whatever. Take me out of the car and unhandcuff me. By this time, Bishop Wells comes up. He and this other officers are talking. It was just a big mess. There was a few cars there. I got unhandcuffed, and I went to church. You know, I went and prayed in the new year. I was a little bit late, but I made it anyway. That was a great reason for me to say, I hate the police, I hate the system, and to just go on and on and on about hate and anger and all those other things. And that was my very first interaction with Portland Police Bureau. I have police officers in my family, I have teachers, I have folks in clergy. In fact, my parents wanted me to be a pastor. That's not what I wanted. I like to do my ministry on the streets in a different capacity. But that instance, kind of like, it could have left a sour taste in my mouth, and it didn't. But like the gentleman said earlier, that was an opportunity for me to learn from police officers that, hey, if I tell you to keep your hands up, keep your hands up. But then again, I also would expect them to tell me how to do things, or me to be able to at least ask that question and not feel like I'm being pigeonholed, or I have to do A, B, and C, or I'm going to lose my life. And fast forwarding to now, I don't hate the police officers. We have idiots in everything that we do. We have idiots in church. We have idiots at the grocery store. We have idiots at school. We just have idiot people. That doesn't mean, it doesn't mean everybody is that way. But I'm proud to be on this COAB board, because for years and years, we've seen a lot of people lose their lives. We've seen a lot of communities marginalized and disenfranchised, but I believe in the work that we're doing, and I wouldn't even volunteer all of my time, more than 20 hours that I'm not getting paid for, to sit on this board. So I believe that we're doing a good thing, and what Officer Jackson, how you just went and hugged him, that's something that we all need to see. And not saying that you don't do that regularly, but it was good for me to see it again. It was good that he felt comfortable where he could put that out there, and that you could hear that and put yourself and put the badge down and be a human being and go over and hug him. I think that we got away from a lot of the stuff that we're innately equipped with. And lastly, I won't take up too much time, I do believe that we need to hold everybody accountable. We shouldn't have to teach officers, teachers, doctors, lawyers how to love, how to be compassionate, how to be emphatic, how to treat people with respect, how to not practice patriarchy and sexism, and how to just treat people any old kind of way. We already have that. We already equipped with all of that. So why do we have to continue to come up with new policies and new amendments so people can get it right? We need to hold those folks accountable, and that is what we plan to do. And that's what I can do. So thank you for your time.
I haven't talked a lot in the last few meetings, been listening from people that are upset and scared. At first, I didn't really know how to react to it, the anger, the screaming, the yelling, because I don't really have a whole lot of those interactions when I'm at work. I get along with people, even that I arrest. People that I take to jail usually will shake my hand or let them smoke a cigarette or something like that. So I understand that people have their past and their histories and their interactions with people well before I was a police officer. What I would like to say is change comes slow. It's not overnight. But things have been changing. Just from doing this board, I've been doing a lot, as Tom was talking about, hot spots. I'll go to those hot spots and I'll just go hang out with people. Just hang out, go talk to them. And they will at first kind of feel, like, hey, why are you here? And I'm like, I'm just hanging out, just letting you know I'm out here and introducing myself, and I'm talking to them. And it's like people that don't want to like me, they are drawn. Why are you here? What are you doing? Why are you messing with us? I'm like, hey, man, I'm just hanging out. And then they'll start chipping, and then all of a sudden, I'm hearing their whole life story. It's great. And then when I go back the next night, the next person that's yelling at me for while I'm there, they're like, hey, man, Jackson's cool, man. You chill out. And they're like, oh. It's been powerful. What was really powerful was that I usually work with a partner, and he's white. And I was telling him about this on nights that we weren't working together, and he was just like, you went where by yourself? And I'm like, yeah, I went over there. And he was, man. He turned around one night that I wasn't working with him. He went over there. And some guys, they raised their hands, hands up, don't shoot. And he stopped, and he said, do you really think I'm going to shoot you, man? And they're like, no. And he got out of the car, and he hung out there, white guy, with all these people. And they accepted him because I went back, and they talked to me about it, and they said he was real. He talked to us, and it wasn't fake. So to me, that's change, especially with how things are right now with the feelings. For a white officer to go out and do that was huge. And what was bigger was that those people accepted him. I get it. I really do understand that people are angry and frustrated. I definitely respond better when someone will speak to me instead of yell and scream. I try to do that with people too. And it's generally when you can just stop and talk to people, things go a lot smoother. And there are a lot of young officers that come on brand new, and they don't understand where all this anger and hatred is coming from. They're very idealistic. They want to help people and save people. And then when they interact with people that are yelling and screaming at them, it's kind of like, whoa, and they kind of pull back, and then you start seeing that less and less where they sometimes come reserved, but it's that courage to kind of, you know what, you got screamed at that time, but go back, just keep trying. And that's what I've been trying to do personally. And I just want to say that I still work the street, I'm out there, and this, like I said, this process has changed the way that I do things, and I've been sharing that with people, rolling up on young kids that are out walking the streets, and the first thing I say is, hey, I've seen you guys tonight, you're not in trouble. I just want to introduce myself. My name's Jay. And I mean, they'll just run up to my car and like I said, just hang out, and tell me what parties they were going to. and it's just really cool. So thank you for everything that everyone's been saying. It's not falling upon deaf ears. And we are listening to you. And it will, things will get better. We just need time and patience. And thank you. Thank you.
Why don't you introduce yourself? Another COAB member? You want to say who you are? Let people know who you are? What committees you're on, or whatever you want to say about yourself?
There's a microphone over here. I thought I'd be inconspicuous. I'm Sharon Myron. I'm a COAB member, and I'm an emergency room doctor. And in that role, deal with people in crisis, particularly all kinds of crises, but mental health crises in particular, which is in a very difficult, challenging place where people are at their most vulnerable, and it's not a great place to be when you're at your, I mean, anytime, but particularly when you're suffering a mental health crisis. And I've observed how our system treats people, and I have also learned a lot that I'm trying to incorporate into my practice and teach to others about how to interact with people when they're in crisis. So that's what I bring to the group, what I'm trying to do, and something that's very important to me. So any input anyone has or anything anyone wants to say, I would love to hear it. If you've had experiences in that situation, I would love to hear about it. And thank you so much for being here.
What comes to mind for me is that everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And it's important not to make assumptions about what their story is based on what you see. There's a lot going on in all of us. And we're here for reasons. And that's enough to build the foundation for our actions. We have some COAB business, unless there's something. Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot. Dennis? Amy?
Well, we obviously have some work to do in incorporating all the great feedback that we've received and we've been listening to. And this is all being videotaped, so if we miss something, we can go back and we can make sure we capture it. And over the next few weeks, we'll be working with the COAB members, and we're going to come up with a way to organize all the feedback on the different sections of the report so that we can address each piece of feedback on that report. So we'll be making changes to the report based on people's feedback, and we certainly find the feedback we've received useful. Some of the things we wrote, there's a few things we clearly can acknowledge we were wrong on and we need to correct. Some, I think, of the things that we wrote that people had a problem with, perhaps we didn't write it in a way that conveyed what we meant people to understand. So we have work to do. We will try to make sure that all of the specific feedback on the report, that we can at least convey to the public what our response is. So if we're able to make a change to the report, we'll indicate where that is. If it's something that we need to sort of put forward, parking lot for future concerns, we'll indicate that too. So we want to make sure people can see that they didn't just come here and give us feedback that fell on deaf ears and we'll go do our thing. We want to make sure people understand how we're incorporating it. So again, we do have a lot of work to do, and we really appreciate your input. We appreciate all the work of the COAB members. We know they've ended up putting in a lot of hours, perhaps more than they expected to when they signed on, but people have been working very hard, and we are glad that we have the opportunity to continue to work with them. There is still time if people have more things to say, to post things. They can either email it to us at rosenbaum&watsonllp@gmail.com or post it on the public forum on the website, or there's forms out here that people can fill out. So please feel free to continue to add comments. It's very useful to us. And we can use that as we move forward. I think this is going to be a learning process for everybody, and we hope that it can really represent what the community in Portland wants and needs to go forward. So again, thank you so much.
We have business to take care of regarding the survey contract. Jimmy?
Thank you, guys. Yeah, hello. Just want to talk about what we've done or what we're in the process of, excuse me, in the process of doing. This is in regards to the survey and the survey contract. Let me give you a little background. Following an extension from the Department of Justice, we have a deadline of June 25th to be in the field with the community survey. This means that having someone contract with the city of Portland by early June. Now the timeline did not allow for a full. Can you hear me? No, I guess you can't. The timeline did not allow for a full RFP process. However, the city had firms on a flexible service list that could be contracted on an expedited basis for work under $50,000. So the community outreach and engagement partnership, we talked with a couple of agencies that do surveys. The firms on the city's flexible services list are Cogan, Owens and Green, or Davis, Hibbets, and Midhall, or DHM. Amy did an initial review of the firms and their capacities or capabilities to do what we need to have done with the surveys. Owens, Cogan, and Green, now they do not do large scale surveys. So we talk with DHM. They does do the work that we're looking for. They do it, and they could be mailed, and the methodology is what we're looking for, and what we talked about in our engagement meetings and our COAB meetings. DHM is also a minority-owned business, woman-owned, and it's a firm based in Portland. And our view of the firm was positive. And as a group, we are comfortable with moving forward with DHM, with COAB continuing to be involved with the survey and the blustering of this survey's work with targeted outreach for specific communities. So basically, at this time, I would like to move, as the chair of the community outreach program, I would like to move that we take a vote on whether we accept DHM as our survey and have the city contract with DHM to do the surveys. So at this point, COAB will be doing we'll be doing a vote. I think it'll be up and down, yay or nay. But we want to vote on. Well, actually, I guess I have to make a motion. So let me make a motion that we move to have DHM as our contractors. All right. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to help you a little bit with the motion. The motion is actually for you all to make a recommendation to the city.
Okay. So. Thank you, Ella. I'm going to make a recommendation to the city. Okay. All right. That we accept the DHM as our contractors to do the survey. Thank you. Yes, sir.
So a lot of public feedback originally when we looked at using CJPRI and PSU had been kind of negative, and we were wanting to try to be responsive to that. I didn't hear you mention CJPRI and PSU. Did we look at them as well? And if we did, what made us feel DHM was better?
Well, yeah, after looking at them, a lot of folk felt that they were kind of embedded maybe with some of the past history with the city of Portland and the Portland Police Bureau. So there's a lot of discomfort, or maybe a lot of uncertainty, or a lot of feeling unsure or trust with some of the others that we looked at. And so this is why we decided to meet and kind of get together and go in a different direction. But at the same time, we wanted to go in the direction that use the methodology and also be something that the city would be able to accept and would be able to work with. When I say that, that would be in compliance with it. Thank you. that would be in compliance. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, that's what it means. The unit that would be in compliance with the mandates of the agreement. So, and with that being said, excuse me, let me read the. Well, with that being said, DHM is who we decided to go with. At least that's I'm recommending. Thank you.
Thank you. Just recalling our previous discussions as a board about this particular contract, I'm noting here from the report from the community survey, or from the Community Engagement and Outreach Committee, that this particular firm was also recommended by Cogan Owens Green, one of the other firms that was considered. And one of the things learned about DHM is that one of their principals, Sue Midgehall, is a woman of color who brings a strong cultural competency lens to her work. We had questions about the cultural competency piece with the previous contractor, so I think it's important to call this particular piece out as meeting a criteria that we were concerned about.
So any more discussion?
Was there a second for my notes?
Yeah, it happened over here somewhere. I think Bud did it. Okay. The discussion is closed. Now we're going to call the question and ask all in favor of forwarding this recommendation to the city to contract with DHM for the survey. Say aye, please. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Okay, the ayes have it. Well, I thought we had a unanimous there, but okay. Raise your hands.
Yeah, I need to see hands.
Okay, all right. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining? Okay. It's passed.
And
So something happens now to get it to the city in a form that they can respond to and start the process. Is that right, Jimmy?
Yeah, absolutely. The next step actually is the city's procurement department will work on the contract with DHM. This contract will go to the city on June 10th, and there will be an opportunity for public comment before the city council votes. Definitely.
So go before council on the 10th, and if you want to comment on it, you can go to council chambers if you have the time and comment, okay? So we're about to close the meeting now. We're about at our time, and wanted Amy, yes? I haven't. We haven't closed the meeting yet. No, we are not done. We are not done. Okay. I'd ask Amy to go through our next steps after this meeting.
Sure, thank you. I think Amy Watson covered most of the ways in which the feedback on the quarterly report will be captured. There's still time to get in comments in writing. 2 of the 3 subcommittees have scheduled meetings next week. The Data Systems Use of Force Subcommittee meets on Wednesday from 2 to 4 p.m. at the Hillsdale Library in the meeting room. The Mental Health Crisis Response Subcommittee meets on Thursday night, 6 to 8 p.m. It's June 4th, at the PCC Climb Center. And then the community engagement and outreach, 6:30 to 8:30, thank you. Mental health crisis response. The Community Engagement and Outreach Subcommittee intends to meet and needs to poll members about a time and location that works. We will get that posted to the website. I hope we can resolve that tomorrow and get that information up. So at all three of those meetings, the subcommittees will be reviewing public comment, will be bringing forward their own comment, and will be working on recommendations to bring back to this full committee on June 11th. And the entire COAB will vote on their recommendations to the COCL on June 11th. That meeting is currently scheduled for Montevilla United Church, and that is listed as well on the website, time and location. Time is 5:30 to 8:30, June 11th, the Montevilla United Church.
Any questions? All right, now, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Did I hear the motion? So moved. And a second? All right, raise your hands if you're in favor of closing the meeting. Oh, hold on, we got it. Okay.
I think that there is some lacking of internal communication in the COAB. For example, I know that we have a governance committee because we voted on them, but I understand that we have a chair of that committee who has never formally presented. I think that's you, Emmanuel. So do you want to present yourself or say who you are and what's going on with the governance?
I think we'll wait till June 11th. First, I appreciate you making mention of that. I think we should do when we have a little more time on June 11th. Is that fine? How's that sound to you?
Okay, I'll miss it. Okay.
But thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay. So all in favor of adjourning the meeting, please raise your hand. Anybody opposed may get hurt. Meeting is adjourned.